Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are. I'm Alexander Booth, your head tutor and instructor and facilitator for this program. So we have a lot to talk about here. So this is your week 3 recap and introduction to week 4. And let's just start with some logistics. So first thing that you should know is that everything should be up and running, which is great. Hooray. We fixed the labs last week and we fixed the discussion forums this week, so everything should be groovy. So I want to introduce you to what the week 4 discussion forums look like and what they should look like for the rest of the program. Within each module, within each week, within each forum, we'll have an assortment of topics. You will always have 2 topics. The first will be the lounge. The lounge will be where you can post whatever you want, memes, questions, ideas, discussions. Honestly, it's just a fun place to hang out. That's also where I will be posting the previous week recap. So this video will go in the module 4 lounge. The live session thread is going to be the session thread devoted to, or the forum thread devoted to our live session, which the next one is happening on Monday. Please try and join us if you can. Feel free to post whatever questions you want. If anything came up during the media sets or the labs for the week that you want me to cover, drop it in there. I'll also be posting the recording information as well as the joining information and just a quick summary of the transcript after the session is over. So that's the purpose of that thread. And then you'll have 1 to 3 discussion threads for the rest of the class here as well. So for week 4, we have 3 discussion threads, a quick conversation around structured data and SQL, a discussion around the benefits and limitations of relational databases. Spoiler, no SQL databases exist, as well as data lakehouses and data warehouses. And we'll be touching on all of those during our live session. And then finally, solving real world problems with SQL. So again, just a quick overview of the discussion threads. Try and actively participate as much as you can. Love the contributions that we're getting in these sessions so far. Myself and Karen will be very active in the discussion threads. You can see I've already linked some extra credit and extra practice and memes, and Karen's linked a couple kind of discussions around how you can start interacting with these databases on your own computer as well. Well, the other big announcement is, of course, the labs. The labs are all working as intended now. So, for example, if I go back to 3.4 and I want to run one of the labs here, we should be able to run all the labs in the class environment. But again, for the rest of the cohort, I will be still backing up everything to my GitHub. So you can see in my repository here for this session, we can see all of the notebooks for the first 3 sessions, as well as like what I did for my review of the live session on a Monday earlier this week. These notebooks you can still run in Google Colab. I'm going to upload the Module 4 notebooks later this weekend. And again, I'll let you know in the forums when those are available. So long story short, for your labs, still I'm prioritize using the campus environment that we have spun up for you. Only utilize my backups if you need them. And finally, the discussion forums are up and working, so please utilize them as best as you can. Let's see. Let's quickly recap Module 3, and then I got a couple other things. Actually, we'll cover one last logistic. So for Module 4, there's going to be 2 types of labs that you'll be walking through. So the first will actually be just a click-through lab with an optional way of being hands-on. So for example, in 4.3, if I progress forward here, we'll eventually hit one of the quote-unquote labs. Here we are. And what this lab actually is, it's an interactive kind of walkthrough. So you don't actually need to run and open these databases. But again, Karen gave us information on how to do that in the lounge. But you should click through, read, understand these queries, and make sure you kind of follow along with technically what's going on here as we create databases and query databases with SQL. In the second half of the module, again, this is a long module, which is why the first half is like click-through labs. In the second half of the module, we'll actually be doing Python code. So for example, starting in, I think, 4.7, and if we go to the very bottom, you'll see, yeah, 4.7 through 4.16 are going to be your interactive writing code, running code labs. So we'll start with just 4.7 as an example. When we work our way through to the lab, 4.7. 4.7 is like the optional IBM Cloud activity. Let's do 4.11. When we get to 4.11, we should have. Boom. Again, watch the videos. Don't just scroll past them like I did. Here we are. We'll have our interactive kind of database that will spin up in our class environment. So in this idea, we're going to be writing Python, writing SQL queries, and interacting with our database live kind of through our lab session here. So that is the expectations for Module 4 in terms of logistics. Again, TLDR for Module 4 specifically, answer each of the 3 discussion prompts as you reach them, as you work through the media sets. For the first half of the module, the media sets are going to be click-through and or optional. And for the second half of the media sets, you'll be running code in our lab environment here as intended. And again, these are going to be the notebooks that I'm going to back up to my repository over the weekend if you need to access them through Colab for any reason. All right, last logistics. Please, please, please try and join the live sessions on Monday. They are way more fun and way more interactive when we have students on a line as opposed to me just podcasting and reviewing the labs by myself. You can find information for the live sessions at the very bottom here. And again, I will promote them by posting in the weekly topic devoted to that forum. Actually, I think this recap video may also go under announcements. Is that where I've been posting them? Oh yeah, here we go. Live session recordings. Oh no, this is where I'll be posting, yeah, just random recordings and updates and things. Maybe I will post this video here. Cool. Anyway, we'll be double posting across announcements as well as the discussion threads as well, just to get as many eyes on things as possible. If you don't want me to double cross post and stuff, please, please, please start thumbs upping, responding, emojiing, saying hi in the threads so I know that you have seen all my messages and that I'm not just shouting into the ether. Ether? Ether. Cool. So we got our live sessions here. You can see the information for the upcoming session. It should be converted to your time zone wherever you are in the world. And if you wanted to catch last week's, we can always go to cloud recordings. And here is the recording for October 20th. And then I'll also link the direct links within kind of the forum topics as well. So yeah, Karen and I had a good time on Monday reviewing the labs for Module 3. Cool. Hopefully I'll see you on a Monday to review the labs for Module 4. All right, so let's quickly recap what we have done with Module 3 and where we're going with Module 4. So let's just kind of recap where we've been and where we're going. So where have we been, right? Week 1 was all about thinking like a data scientist, using and answering data-driven decisions, and kind of formulating questions and hypotheses that can actually be answered with data. In week 2, we started thinking like a computer programmer, right? How do we use conditionals, loops, variables, data structures, functions, and classes, our building blocks of programming, to start writing repeatable, executable code? And then in module 3, our big idea was data acquisition. How can we start acquiring data from various vendors in various formats and various sources and start standardizing them in a data structure known as a data frame, specifically a pandas data frame, from which we can start doing any of our analytics or model building, visualization building, reporting, etc. So for module 3, we introduced a couple different data acquisition concepts, or 3 main ways that data vendors typically sell or supply data to you. So the first was web scraping. Web scraping, I also kind of lump in with just markdown language data types. So this is when your data arrives in HTML, hypertext markup language, or XML. Again, the ML there stands for markup language as well. HTML and XML are defined by tags, with the data typically residing as text or values inside of those tags. HTML is, of course, the structure of the web or a website. So when we scrape information out of HTML tags, that is known as web scraping. Big idea about web scraping is that it's typically frowned upon. Don't do it that much, please. Web scraping typically can lead to DDoS attacks where your bots are spamming a website so much that it ends up taking it down. And sometimes different websites retaliate, right? So we talked about Reddit and Twitter and how they've really kind of made it difficult to web scrape their websites. We also talked about how web scraping is typically against the terms of service of many big websites as well. So if we're not supposed to use web scraping or acquiring data on a website without the data vendor's consent, what should we use instead? The most popular way of sending data between different devices is known as an API, or an application programming interface. This is typically how a data vendor owns and operates and communicates their data to a potential consumer, right? This is also how we send data between different servers and computers as well. The main data format for APIs is JSON, and it's typically lists and dictionaries if you think back to your data structures that we talked about last week. The final method that's not in the media sets, but I did talk about in the live session is FTP servers. This is a little bit more of an antiquated system. You can almost think of it as like an old school Dropbox or Google Drive. It's a way that we can send structured data such as CSVs, rows, and columns to different kind of computers as well. FTP servers are still used, but not as widely, and that is mostly due to cybersecurity issues. Cool. Let's see. We walked through the labs. We talked about how we can use web scraping to acquire data from websites. We also talked about how we can use libraries and APIs to acquire data as JSON from other sources. In the labs, we acquired our HTML data for revenue from a website, and we acquired our API data from the Y Finance library or the Yahoo Finance library. So again, those are the labs in the media sets. Those are the labs we walked through in the live session. Please go ahead and review them on your own time. Finally, we talked about some of the shortcuts, right? Like the purpose of pandas is to kind of standardize all these disparate data sources into a data frame that we can then use in for data science and data modeling. So we talked about how there's examples like read XML, read Excel, read CSV, read JSON, which tries and interprets these different data files and ingests them to data frames. I call this a shortcut usually because sometimes we need to adapt and clean and prepare data in ways to make it good for pandas to ingest. Other aspects of the lab to focus on, not only did we ingest data and acquire data from sources, we also did some basic data cleaning. We fixed our data types, we fixed some columns, we joined data together, and finally we created visualizations. We created Plotly visualizations to be able to look at this data and make a decision on which stock we should invest in. Cool. So that's kind of the main takeaway for week 3. Convert any data source, HTML, JSON, XML, CSV, Parquet, Excel into a clean pandas data frame. Automate it, make it repeatable, make sure we can make this system broad. And then from there, we can do our work. I provided some extra links around different documentations and different activities that I mentioned during the recording. Looking ahead to week 4, we are introducing SQL and relational databases. This is a way to create a single source of truth for your data estate. And databases in SQL have been around for 50 years, if that. So they've been a SQL Server and Oracle have been around since the 1970s. So this would be systems such as your Microsoft SQL Server, your Oracle databases, etc., your proprietary. From these old school SQL databases, we moved into open source databases such as Postgres and MySQL. And then from there, we moved into the NoSQL land, the data warehousing land, and the lakehouse land. These are some of my favorite topics to discuss, so you can be sure I'll mention them during our live session on Monday. So things to look out for with week 4. What is a database? Why do we need databases? What is structured data? And again, we're going to also introduce data engineering. So that's the concept of acquiring data from these different data vendors, right? Your CSVs, your JSON, your XML, and then cleaning it and writing it. So loading it into a database so that other people and other engineers and other data scientists and analysts can access it for future work. And then we're also going to talk about how databases can be used as a source, right, as a vendor for data scientists. Not only can we ingest data directly from APIs, we should be able to go to our company's single source of truth, take data out of our database, load it into a pandas data frame, and then from there do our analytics, create our visualizations, and train our models. So the hands-on activities for this week will involve writing data to databases with Python, data engineering, as well as reading data out of databases and creating your data frames and visualizations off of that. That'll be our data science. If you're reading ahead, you may even see that Pandas has a function called read SQL, which is going to be a shortcut to execute structured query language SQL commands against a database and bring it back instantly as a data frame. Last thing I'll leave you with is if you need some extra credit or extra hands-on practice this week, we have a couple of different Kaggle activities. So just to recap, Intro to Programming and Python kind of lined up neatly with week 2. The Pandas one will actually line up better with next week 5, but also kind of with week 3, and you should honestly just try it out as soon as you can. And there's 2 SQL ones. Intro to SQL lines up exactly with what we're doing in week 4. We're going to be interacting with a data warehouse on Google Cloud called BigQuery, running through some basic SQL operations. And again, it's having a stronger understanding of why we need databases or data warehouses. If you want to go above and beyond, the advanced SQL class is also pretty good. It'll go into advanced functions that you can use and run against a database, more analytical functions, nested data, complex data types, etc. So feel free to do both. Upload your certificate into the discussion forums. Would love to see kind of how much y'all are doing, and happy to kind of give extra credit as possible if you do that. Finally, I think this question came up a couple times. The IBM Cloud Media Sets, I recommend doing them, signing up and kind of working through the free trial and working with the free interface. But please don't feel like you have to pay anything for the IBM Cloud. It shouldn't charge you, even if you provide your credit card number. And if you really want to, it is technically optional. You don't technically have to do any of the activities in the IBM Cloud to get through and pass this certificate. So whatever you feel like doing. All right, I will hopefully see most of you, some of you, any of you on Monday during our live session. And Karen and I will also be available throughout the weekend and the week in the discussion forums. Stay engaged, keep putting in the efforts. It's awesome to kind of see the progression and see the grades come in across these weekly quizzes. And again, leave a thumbs up if you see this. And I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend.